What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Joe Fortin here once again. Today we have a visual aid, and I am going to discuss a number of things today. But I want you to keep this in your mind as I discuss the things I'm going to discuss. And I'm going to talk about a few different concepts right now with this diagram in mind, okay? And also keep in mind that occult or hidden knowledge, as we discussed, right, as the case may be, is taught through correlative thinking, right? So, as above, so below, as within, so without, right? When you understand the mechanics of one system and how it relates to other systems, right, you'll be able to see how it's basically the same set of mechanics that governs everything, right? You can boil it down to a few simple laws, right? And that's what the Kybalion is about. That's what the 7 Hermetic laws are about, right? And we're going to be talking about, well, all of them. Not really so much the law of mentalism, but the rest of them. The law of mentalism supersedes all of them. But we're going to be talking about correlation, polarity, gender, rhythm, all of the rest of them. And yeah. When you begin to see how everything really is connected and how all the puzzle pieces fit together, it's really mind-blowing. And so today we're going to discuss, I'm going to discuss twin flames. I'm going to discuss some things that have happened in my own dynamic that I've been having some realizations about. I mean, they just keep pouring in. I mean, it's just more and more and more all the time. I'm going to talk about the dynamic between the toxic feminine and the toxic masculine energy and how they are interdependent, how they interplay, how they create each other, how you can't have one without the other, and how it's not about blaming one side or the other, as we see out there, right? MGTOW and Red Pill, they want to blame women, especially MGTOW, right? They want to blame women. Feminists want to blame men. It's like, no, that neither side, they're seeing the problem. They're at the point of being able to identify it, right? And they're not seeing the whole picture, right? Because if they were, they would be balanced and they wouldn't be pointing their fingers like they are. So that's another whole topic, but I'm going to explain some of these things. But let me just give you some very basic, foundational information to keep in mind as I discuss the things that I discuss, right? So what I'm about to discuss with you is something that has, I've been getting, like, I guess you could call downloads on for the last couple of years. And, I get downloads and they come in sometimes almost like holographic images, right? And it's hard for me to conceptualized a lot of things. It's hard for me to verbalize a lot of the things that I see and that I understand internally. But in order to teach something, you have to understand it thoroughly enough so that you can break it down into its simple components. And that's what I'm in the process of doing, and that's what I do on my channel. I use simple symbols that everyone understands to break down really complex concepts that I learn about through my studies and through my own experience. So let's just go over a few things. In the Cathara grid, which I'll post a picture of here, there's 12 energy centers, right? And this I've explained before. Not only is occult knowledge taught in correlative thinking, but it's also taught at a gradient, right? So if there are concepts that you don't understand, I would encourage you to go back through my older videos and you will find explanations on everything that I'm about to explain to you. And it's important to understand the foundational information so that you can then come to sound logical conclusions with the higher level information. It's like learning arithmetic before algebra, before geometry, before trigonometry, before calculus, etc., right? These are things that are taught on a gradient for a reason. It has to be taught that way. There's no other way to really do it. It's also why life is like an unfoldment, right? It's just the way things go, which is also why we have master teachers, right? In any martial arts, if you go to any martial arts dojo, there's going to be like, one guy there who's the head honcho, so to speak. I'm not here to talk about, the difference between anarchy and hierarchy, but, that structure it exists everywhere, right? It exists in nature too. At this point, at this density level, at this vibration, in this realm, at this time. Not to say that other systems can't manifest, but right now, this is where we are, so we need to understand it. Okay. 12 energy centers. 12 chakras, right? And there are different systems. There are people who teach the 3 chakra system. There are people who teach the 7 chakra system. There are people who teach the 12 chakra system. There are people who teach 15 chakra system, right? Let me put it to you this way. They all exist. But understanding the interplay between those different systems, which one's more correct, which one's less correct, that kind of thing is a matter of debate that I do not have time to go into today. But for the purposes of this discussion, 12 chakras, right? 12 strand DNA, 12 months in a year, 12 star signs, right? I can just go on and on and on with this list. 12 jurors in a jury, right? 1 judge, right? 1 complete jury. 1 soul, 12 incarnates, right? 4 primaries. The 12 and the 6 are a set of twin flames. The 9 and the 3 are a set of twin flames. This is going to be a male and a female in accordance with the law of gender and natural law and the way that this reality field is constructed. You can have a twin-like dynamic with another person within this who is of the same sex, right? It's not, it's not a matter of who's better, who's worse, who's this, who's that. We need to be mature enough to not even be, getting into those types of petty discussions, okay? Things are what they are. This is how it works. It's the mechanics. Let's talk about that. 12 cell salts, right? If you read the God-Man, the Word Made Flesh, which I spoke about recently, I'll post a link up top and below. Talks about the 12 cell salts. This is also talked about in Hawkins homeopathy, right? Correlative, correlations. So, depending on what sun sign you're born under, you're going to have deficiencies in certain cell salts, right? Now, another thing I want to make you aware of is something called the Wheel of Life. And I'm going to post an image here to that. And with the Wheel of Life, we're going to, this is something I use in coaching, right? This is a tool. You would put different areas of your life on the wheel, right? And, here you might put, job, relationships, socializing, my health, my nutrition, etc., around the wheel, right? And then you're going to rate them 1 to 10. So this would be 0, this would be 10. And, let's say if your relationships, you feel that in your life, you're at about a 5, you'd put a mark here, right? If you feel it, with your work, you're doing really well, you put a mark here, right? If you feel, and maybe I might be mixing these up, but if you feel like, with socializing, you're at, let's say a 7, just so you put, maybe about here, right? And what ends up happening is you have this wheel that's constructed with these points, right? And for simplicity's sake, I'll just make the rest of them 5s. But you get something that's a little lopsided, right? Now let's take that same concept and apply it to personality traits, character structure, right? Let's say, like me, I'm a Sagittarius, right? 12. It's more complicated than this because you've got rising sign, you've got, your moon sign, you've got, all the asteroids, you've got a lot with astrology. But I'm trying to explain this in a very simple way. This can be extrapolated out to the entire chart, right? It all works through angles, basically. So it's going to be a more complex version of this. Let's say that we're just dealing with the sun sign right now. We're going to make it simple. Let's say that someone with Sagittarius, in terms of, let's put character traits here instead of, different aspects of life. Let's put, I don't know, conscientiousness here, communication ability here, physical strength here, so on and so forth around the wheel, right? What's going to happen is that people who are on other signs are going to have a different combination of those same attributes, right? And it all works out mathematically. And if you know the details of it, it really is a science, right? It gets very complicated because, there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot to us. We're not simple. In some ways we're simple, but in other ways we're very complex, right? How does this relate to your twin flame? Well, for those of you who are at this point, right, the 12 and the 6, which is like your last incarnation, before ascension, so to speak, according to Ashe and Adine, right? And I believe that to be the case. All these 12 incarnates are you, essentially, operating from the same soul blueprint in different time vectors, right? But if you're at this position, right, what you're going to see is that in certain ways, that other person is exactly like you, right? Like weirdly like you, obviously, right? But the other thing you're going to notice is that there's also like an inverse mirror. Let me explain this to a degree, right? It's almost like if you took the inverse of your chakra imbalances, that's what they would be like. I mean, to the point of things like, I like tend to over communicate. I'm a little too open sometimes, and it's whatever, right? But like, I express myself very, vociferously, right? It's like I can't shut up. Sometimes I just wish, I just wish I didn't talk so much and I didn't say so much. My mouth gets me in so much trouble. Person I perceive to be my twin is like a fucking mime. She's like a mute. She doesn't talk, man. It's like fucking 180 degrees out, right? And that, that's a circle, 360 degrees. 180 degrees is halfway around the circle. This is the way it works. And eventually, I was thinking about this while I was jogging. Eventually, whether or not we end up in a relationship, it is what it is, right? I don't know if that's meant to be or not. Right now, it's not really looking that way. But at some point, I will speak to her again. And she will tell me that she gets this. It is written. So mote it be. So yeah. But not only is this dynamic and this relationship playing out with your twin flame, this is playing out with everybody, right? the problem is that it's complex, right? Like an astrological chart, right? There's so many different planets and asteroids and things maybe we can't even see, right? Which create the discrepancies we see between different systems of astrology, right? But if we had all the data and we had an intricate enough algorithm, it would make perfect sense. It would be perfect. The problem is there's just things we can't account for that we don't know yet, and that will change as we increase our vibration, as we increase our knowledge and understanding, and as we learn to cooperate with each other a little more instead of competing so much, which if we move into a higher vibrational reality, that will be the case. So okay, I want you to keep all of this in mind, keep this chart in mind, and just kind of let it sink in. This might not make sense to you the first time you see the information. There may have been concepts that I've talked about that maybe you don't understand. If you don't, I would encourage you to look into them and then watch this video again. So yeah, I'm going to talk now a little bit about my personal journey, my little dynamic here, right? I've said before that, well, it's so freaking crazy, man. I can't, there's so many things that have happened that are so crazy. They're just like it's so beyond coincidence, right? Like I've talked about the insane synchronicities that I have had. It's just like, you can't make it up, man. It's just like, even, for those of you out there who maybe haven't quite figured out whether you believe this or not, believe me, I have questioned it and questioned it and questioned it, and I have been skeptical. And I have been a left-brained, scientific, materialistic person most of my life, okay? So I'm perfectly capable of looking at it through that lens. And every time I ask questions, it proves itself. And every time I start to walk away from this and say, I don't believe that, it's a bunch of hooey synchronicities and things start just slapping me in the face, like super hard. Or she'll show up, or, just you name it, man, and it's happened to me, okay? I've tried to walk away from this. And another thing is, like, people might look at me as being like a viewer did say, and I'm not being, me and that viewer have worked things out. We both apologized to each other, so that's all good. But one of the things that was brought up was, like, they were saying, like, that twin flames are in limerence and that, we're obsessive and that kind of thing. Well, I want to, like, shed some light on that a little bit. Am I a little, could it appear outwardly that I'm a little obsessed? Yeah. But I'm obsessed with figuring out myself and what the hell's going on in my life. What is all this madness? What's all this craziness? What are all these synchronicities about? Why did I have a heart chakra opening when I met this person? And why did my whole world change? Why did that happen? Science can't, modern materialistic science can't explain what's happened to me at all. It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't fit at all. The things I'm teaching right now fit perfectly. And in terms of whether it's love or limerence, that's not for anyone to decide for me. But what I will tell you is that the feeling that I felt in my heart for this person and while I was with her, regardless of her behavior, regardless of my anger towards her at times, regardless of all of those things, the love that I feel for this person, I have never felt for anyone else in my life. And it is a physical, tangible feeling in my heart chakra area, okay? And I see no reason to judge that. It is what it is. The heart wants what the heart wants. My heart does not care what you think or even what I think or what she thinks or anything. And following it. This is the fruit of that. Following that path. And again, you know, I enjoy learning about these things. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy mixing it up a little bit. I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I'm not afraid to be that guy. I'm that guy a lot. But I'm doing this because I care about people, and I'm trying to figure this out too, man. You know, we've been lied to about so much. So much has been kept hidden from us. You know, and if I can figure some of it out and help out, cool. That's what I'm here for. So let's dive right into the toxic feminine, toxic masculine dynamic, how it interplays with what I was just talking about. Think of the relationship between you and your parents like being different points on that wheel almost. What are you? Well, you're a combination of different parts of your parents, right? You share DNA with them, right? And the points of DNA that you share are, you know, you might have a little more of this from your dad and a little bit of that from your mom, right? And that'll change this, right? It'll change the shape of that wheel, right? How much am I resonating with this, with my dad? How much am I resonating with that, with my mom, right? And you have a morphogenetic resonance with your ancestors, right? They are your ancestors. You know, they're still living, but they're your ancestors. And that's not only happening on a physical level, it's happening on a spiritual plane as well. And so if there's an imbalance in one area, there's going to be it's like law of cause and effect, right? If there's an imbalance in one area, it's going to create an imbalance in the other, because there's no way for it not to. So in the case of something like having toxic feminine energy, right? Well, that doesn't exist in a vacuum. You know, and I'm talking about a standard family dynamic, which I know a lot of people don't have, but you will still be able to correlate this to any situation. You know, if you're not able to do it yourself, you know, you want some help with that, you know, and you want some coaching or something, feel free to reach out. I can certainly help with these areas. This is family dynamics, right? But there's going to be, you know, there's going to be a balance created, right? And so if there's a imbalance on one side, there's going to be an imbalance on the other. There's no way there can't be. So if you've got a toxic feminine energy, right, like a mother who is overprotective, overgiving, oversharing, overcaring, helicopter parent, right, you know, protecting the children too much from the harsh criticisms of the father and that corrective father energy, right? What it's going to do is that and let's look at this, let's look at a young man. This can apply to women too, but it's going to be a little bit different scenario, and I know the male scenario a little better. If you put a young man in that situation, especially if there will also be generally a toxic masculine energy as well. So the toxic masculine will be too critical, too overbearing, too controlling, right? Usually they'll have rage issues, anger issues, right? And there can be all kinds of different things there, right? But there's going to be issues on both sides, responsibility on both sides, right? What this is going to create in the son is a son who will be kind of a mama's boy. And I'll say stuff like, well, he's suckling on his mother's titty. He'll be codependent. He will be unable to stand on his own 2 feet. You know, he will probably be someone who, you know, lives at home or in a similar dynamic, right? So if he's not living at home, he'll be siphoning off the government or something like that, right? And this is not judgment. I'm looking at things just the way that they are. This is something that's a problem we need to fix. And he will have been trained to be that way. And the longer he's trained to be that way, the harder it's going to be for him to get out of it. So keep in mind that, if you are someone who's in this type of dynamic, let's say that you're the mother in this dynamic, if you've let him slide so far down that he can't take care of himself at all, it's really counterproductive to completely pull the rug out from under him at that point. You've had a huge responsibility in getting him to that point. So what has to happen is a slow unlearning for him, right? So you've got to slowly remove the fucking training wheels, right? Don't throw him in the deep end of the pool if he's gonna drown. If he's not really not capable of taking care of it. So keep that in mind. But men who see this in themselves, this was me, right? And I've still gotten a lot of help from my parents, even at this point, but I see it. I've been correcting it. I've been working my fucking balls off to make sure that that's not the case, right? But what this creates is also a dynamic between that man and whatever woman he seeks out, right? He's going to do the same thing with her that he does with his mother. So he's going to be needy. He's going to be codependent. He's going to be emotionally weak. And in this paradigm, if women sense that within you as a guy, guess what? There's two options. You're either going to get a woman who will wear the pants and who will run you. That happens a lot, right? The fucking dominatrix type. The one who would typically be a feminist, right? And she won't have any respect for you as a man because you're not being a man. Or she's going to run from you if she is someone who's more feminine, right? Because she wants a fucking man. And that's what's happened with me. Again, in my situation with my twin. I'd call a spade. I see it. I know exactly what I did. I watched myself do it while I was doing it. I'm being too emotional. I'm being needy. I'm triggered. Can't let go of the past. And granted, there really did need to be some communication there. She has major communication issues. There needed to be some communication there. And we needed to hash some things out. And she knew we needed to hash some things out. And she chose not to. She didn't want to take responsibility. She didn't want to be a grown-up. So that pissed me off even more. And so the problem got exacerbated, right? But there was responsibility on my end, which I will own and take care of. Whether she comes back or not. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about my own situation. Let's go into some more shit that reflects what I've been talking about here. She's a lot like me, comes from rich family. I mean, I'm from a super rich family, but my family has some money. I went to private school. And she had a good upbringing, what I would call a pretty good upbringing. Like any family's got some fucking issues, right? But that's everybody. But the dynamics there are very similar, right? Has both parents, just like I do. Parents have some money, just like I do. Same kind of belief systems. Very, very similar, right? Northern European. I mean, just, there's a whole fucking list of bullet points, right? I'm not going to name them all. Like me, Jekyll and Hyde. She's fucking Jekyll and Hyde. And I've mentioned this on the channel. She's got this side of her, which is the side she showed me. And the side she always tries to show me. Which is like kind of that good little princess, that good little girl, right? The one who does all the right things, who's very, very, very intelligent. She is very intelligent. You know, all of these things, right? All of these awesome, amazing qualities, right? And she does have a lot of amazing qualities. And then she's got this other side. In my case, this is for me, this is what I call a Sasquatch, right? I call her the she squatch because she's fucking just like me. She may not see it, but she is. I mean, just, you know, I'm not. I don't want to fucking rag on her, but I'll share a little bit. Like, just rowdy, you know, likes to fucking party, likes to drink, very sexual, that kind of thing, right? And I mean to a very high degree, similar to my own background, which I've explained on the channel. You know, I was you know, I was a crazy fucking guy when I was younger. Okay, like, I can't even explain it to you yet. At some point, I will explain it, but man, I was a hellion. Okay, and she's the same. Now, the rabbit hole gets deeper. I'm gonna pause this so I don't lose the video. As I stated earlier, right? Diagram. One soul, 12 incarnates. Obviously, if this is the case, then it's possible you might meet another one. You might meet one that's the same sex, even if you're heterosexual, which has happened to someone I know, right? He was like, I'm a heterosexual male, and I met he thought it was his twin flame, and he was like, and it's a guy. He was like, imagine dealing with that. I think what he met was a twin ray, right? Someone who's in that same soul, but that it's not his twin flame, because a twin flame has to be a male and a female. And that's, again, dictated by the mechanics. You can hate me for saying it if you want, but it's literally how this reality field functions. And it's, you know, basically, it's provable. So you could blame God if you want. But anyway, I met the girl that was on my channel that I thought was my twin flame for a while, you know, who I have recently, you know, come out and said, no, I think that was actually a shadow twin dynamic. And I think to anyone who knows the difference at this point, that's pretty obvious. But there's so many uncanny fucking coincidences with that situation too. The person that I've been talking about, the person who I actually think is my twin flame, right? She's the one I met 6 years ago. Had a heart chakra opening, just fell head over heels for her. You know, it's the beginning of this journey. This other person was like 3 years ago. And 2 or 3, give or take. Same height, weight, bone structure, age. They're like 3 months apart in age. And same interests. It was just like, what the fuck? Like, and it was like, literally, if you took my twin flame and you made a fucking vampire, gothy, sexy vampire fucking version of her, that was her. It's so uncanny that I still can't believe it. Like, it's like, are you freaking for real, man? You know, when I actually, still to this day, when I think about it, I'm like, how is this even possible? You know, the original one wanted to be a tattoo artist. This one was a tattoo artist. The original one outwardly appeared, you know, very kind and all of that, right? Treated me like dog shit, right? The second one outwardly appeared fucking evil as shit and treated me really well. You know, what was actually going on there Whether that was genuine or not, I still can't say. But there are energies working through her that are not good, and it doesn't take a whole lot to see that. And this is the second person. There were energies working through the first one that weren't good either, but I believe she'll overcome them, and that's part of what I'm talking about here. In terms of the sexuality thing, it was like the second one, the shadow twin one. It was like she literally was unleashing the fucking animal in me on purpose, bringing me into my darker aspects, bringing me into all of the darker aspects of myself. It took me like, if you watch my channel after I was with her and you watch the videos, it took me a solid year and a half to come out of that. I was like messed up by it for a while. I was in a dark place. I was, getting into it. I was reading chaos magic. I really didn't do any of it. I did a few little sigil spells here and there, which worked, by the way, so be careful. But I didn't do any invocations. I didn't really work with any demons, any to any degree, I had to pull myself the fuck out of it. And it was like, this person was like the physical fucking embodiment of fucking like just oozing sex. Like it was like if Satan wanted to create the perfect fucking sexy little demon for me to lure me to the dark side, she was it. She was exactly like my twin in so many fucking ways. And the weird thing is too is that the second one, the shadow twin, when I told her about the first one, whenever I would talk about her, she hated her more than any fucking human being on the planet. This chick, it was funny because she like didn't ever sweat. It was just kind of a funny thing that we always talked about. Whenever I would mention the first one's name, she'd literally get so angry she'd break out into a fucking sweat. It was fucking strange, man. So yeah, I mean, I could sit here for 4 hours and explain this all. But this is not a coincidence, guys, okay? There's something more going on here. And I can't fully explain all of it, but I'm starting to be able to explain a lot of it. And that's what this is about. I'm sharing some of my story. I'm trying to be respectful of both of those people, regardless of what I may think of them, regardless of what they may or may not have done to me or said about me or anything like that. The fact of the matter is that I care about them both. I still care about them both. And, even the second one, who I have said was maybe a shadow twin dynamic, who maybe is into some things that, are dangerous and whatever, right? I don't hate her. I don't. She's been through fucking hell, man. That's why she got into a lot of the things that she got into. So, I don't need to add to that hell. And I hope that she's able to heal, and I hope that she's able to get what she wants out of life. I wish her the best as well. So I think I've covered kind of what I wanted to cover. One last thing. When I first met my twin, there was a guy that was present, and we were all together for a while. And this guy, I just, I didn't hate him, but I was just like, wow, this guy's such a scumbag. Like it was like we were opposites. It was like Neo and Agent Smith, kind of. It's like he's your antithesis, he's your opposite, And she ended up dating him, which I just was like, are you fucking kidding me? And, there's a lot I could go into with that, but he was not a good guy. And, I will still say that. I hope that he's gotten better. I hope that he's doing well. And I hope that he sees his errors and corrects them. But, he did some things that were just fucking awful. And I warned her. But what I found interesting, and I didn't think about this until today, was I was talking about this guy. I had, out of care, told him at one point that he was going to hurt himself doing deadlifts because he was doing the technique wrong. And he did. He hurt himself like a week later. And instead of like acknowledging, that I really was trying to help him, I tried to make peace with him a bunch of times and he just wouldn't have it. He hated me because we both liked her. But like 6 months later, I hurt myself in almost the exact same way. It wasn't because I was doing the exercise wrong. It was some other factors. But it was something that I was mildly aware of that I just chose to ignore that bit me in the ass. It was the shape of the weights at the gym. I talked about it in the other video that I'm going to upload today. But I found it very interesting. We both had almost the same injury at the same time. Could he be part of this fucking soul? Could all of these people be part of the same soul? Could all of them be part of the same monad, perhaps? These are questions I do not have the answer to yet. But I think it's interesting that, he was almost like he was my shadow in physical form. And the second girl I talked about was her shadow in physical form. The other interesting thing that I was thinking about was that, the second girl, the shadow twin thing, I did some rituals with her that were probably, now looking back, I'm like, damn, I wish I hadn't done that. That was probably not in my best interest. I know it happened for a reason, but she's a black magician. And my twin dated a black magician in very much the same way, who I warned her about. And then I turned around and did the same thing. She still doesn't know that person was a black magician. I told her and she was like, no, he's not. And I'm like, yeah, he is. I remember the fear in his eyes when we were talking about it, when I shook his hand, and the demons that he had tattooed on his arm. I remember what his Facebook said too. I remember. So, yeah. If I wrote a book about all this, nobody would believe it. And it's all fucking true. I'm very, forthcoming about what I'm speculating about and what is true. Everything I've told you today is the fucking truth. And even I sit here and go, how? Like, this is fucking nuts, man. This would drive anybody mad. Just the stuff I've told you. And I've only told you 1% of the, not even. I got 800 YouTube videos. I got probably 100 video logs talking about all this stuff. I've told you guys probably 1%. The craziest stories, I'm not going to be able to tell for a while. It's nothing horrible. It's just, I don't know. Me out in the woods screaming, drunk, being crazy, walking 10 miles at night, stuff like that. I'll be able to tell it pretty soon. Like I said, it's nothing too terrible, but, just it's fucking nuts. I've got reasons not to share everything right now that, I'll go into at some point. So, yeah, that's all for today. But there's an interplay between everything, right? Just because we can't explain it all 100% right now doesn't mean that it's not there. And it is all governed by law. And, science. This is occult science. This is science that's been hidden from you, so that you don't understand how you operate, so that you don't understand how the world operates. And the Catholic Church, that whole control mechanism is a control mechanism. yeah, there's truth in the Bible, but it's been distorted, keep you powerless, to keep you going through a conduit, keep you going through someone else for your spiritual connection to God, which is within you. You don't need to go to a church. You don't need a priest. You don't need any of that. They've also, especially like in the SRA communities, it's mostly controlled opposition. So basically all these people who are Bible thumpers have hijacked that community, and they paint everything through a Christian lens, and they tell you that learning about occult knowledge is all evil. They paint it all black and white, right? Stay away from that. Don't learn anything about yourself or your psychology or astropsychology or any of these things or how they work, because if you do that, we will lose power. I'm not going to explain it. That's the way it is. So, you guys know this. If you've made it to this point in the video, you already know this. So I'm going to be done. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, if you guys want a session, anybody wants a session, email me, joe@joefortincoaching.com. Check out my website, joefortincoaching.com. And yeah, see you guys soon. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below and click the icon to your left to subscribe. New content every week about spirituality and addiction from myself, Joe Fortin. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.